Show us the one when we're kissing. Show us the sea while we're cool. Come take a trip in my airship, and we'll sit in the sun in the pool. Ain't this a nice song? Yes, it is a nice song.
Up ship.
Hello, this is Rob Davis of Airship 27.
Hey everybody, and this is Captain Ron Fortier, and welcome to episode 2 of Airship 27, the podcast. And believe it or not, Rob, they haven't kicked us off the year yet.
Well, give them time.
You know, hey, really, before we get too far into our second episode here, we really need to take some time to thank all the real nice people out there, especially on Facebook and the internet, who were kind enough to give us some feedback from episode number 1. And
yes,
man, we got a lot of nice comments.
Yes, we did. I didn't expect that from our first episode. That's great.
And our apologies to Jamie Ramos. that's how we pronounce his name.
Yeah, right? I guessed wrong, because I guess so did you.
yeah, we both got derailed, Jamie, and we apologize for that. But thanks for being understanding and willing to come back this week as well. We're going to do pretty much, stick to the same format that we did in episode 1, which seemed to work. And I'm just going to put this out right now before we really get rolling. And that's, please, we've got a bunch of questions we're going to answer this episode as well, which is really great for me and Rob, because you don't have to sit there and listen to us just shoot the bull about the weather or whatever.
There's plenty to talk about around here, but that's okay. We'll move on.
Right. Yeah, we'll create another podcast called "The Weather: What We Can't Do About It."
Right. Exactly.
There you go. So hey, please keep the questions coming. They mean the world to us. And again, feedback, critiques, applause, whatever. They're only going to make the show better for us and for you as well. So, as we did last week, what's the next title we got coming out, Rob?
Well, get out my paper here. Looks like, and I know what this is. I'm working on it. It's Snake, Nest of Vipers by Michael Vance. The interiors are by artist Gregory Kaiser, and I hope I pronounced that right. And art, I guess that's for the cover, is Ted Hammond. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Right.
And so where are we at with that now?
Well, I just got back the proofreaders. Comments on that. Just got them yesterday. Because I've been working on another project that's for Planet Comic-Con, which is I'm doing some design work for them, and they've been keeping me pretty busy this last weekend. But finally, that's all kind of out of the way. So starting probably tomorrow, I'll be doing those corrections, and then it'll go out to the writer, who will look it over, and then it should be ready to go to Amazon and CreateSpace.
All right, great. I want to segue into a couple of things in that, what you just talked about with Snake, Nest of Vipers. And that's two things. Number one, you mentioned Planet Comic-Con, and that's a convention that you've been going to for the past 10 years now?
Oh, no, it's longer than that. It was back, I think the first one was in, let me think here, 97?
Whoa.
98? It's been around for a while. It's been around for 14, 15 years.
That's great.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either till, I actually saw some paperwork on it not too long ago. I don't have it handy, so I can't get the exact date, but it's been around for quite a while. But it went from a fairly small convention, maybe had 3,000-4,000 people attending for Kansas City. That wasn't bad at the time, but now they moved from one spot, and now they're in Bartle Hall, which is is a huge convention center. It's not as big as the one in San Diego, but it's very reminiscent of that and the Rosemont Center in Chicago. It's big. It's 300,000 square feet this year they're using. So they've got this is big time stuff here. from a small convention that I and a handful of artists attended 10, 15 years ago to this is just pretty incredible. Now they actually have a staff of people. I was one of the designers, not the. I was one of several doing work on several different things for them. My work was mostly on the program guide, which we just finished up. But we actually have a staff. It was originally done by one guy, Chris Jackson, who still runs it, but he was trying to do it all himself. But it's so huge now, he's got to have a staff to do it.
Wow!
So,
I mean, you described that huge hall, and all I'm thinking to myself is, I bet they fill it up too, right?
They do. It's amazing. We had this space down in Johnson County, which is on the south and the west side of Kansas City. It's actually over in Kansas and Overland Park, and that building was pretty good size, and we filled that up. And one year they had a snowstorm, just like we had recently here. 6 inches of snow were coming down, and I thought, oh man, this thing's going to be a bust. And people came, and they kept coming, and they kept coming, and I'm going, oh, this is completely different. I didn't expect the place was packed, and there was six inches of snow on the ground. So that will tell you how far that's come.
Yep. Oh, I did want to give you time to promote it, because obviously what's going to happen is, what we're recording today is going to be the March episode of our show. And so basically what's going to happen is, by the time people listen to this particular podcast, the one-day FOCO Comic-Con that you're going to be attending with me this weekend will have come and gone. And then you'll be right on top of Planet Comic-Con. So I wanted to get that. I wanted to get that out there as a last-minute thing for any people in the Kansas area, who would like to go to a real.
If you don't know about this thing already, then you're not listening, because they've got TV ads and newspaper ads and that sort of thing. But if you're a comics fan, if you're a media fan, if you're a science fiction fan, if you're a cosplay fan, if you're any kind of geeky fan, this is the thing for you to go to in Kansas City, 13th, 14th, and 15th of March. So and anybody that's there, come by my table in Artist's Alley, say hi, and buy something.
There you go. Please, and tell us you're listening to the show. All right. Yeah. Hey, one last bit on the snake item that I wanted to get across,
right?
Because I just posted that today. As you mentioned, the interior art is by Gregory Kaiser, and a new artist working with us. And the front cover is a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of artwork by Ted Hammond, who is a very popular comic book and pinup artist who's done a lot of work.
Very slick looking.
Nice airbrushing style. It's beautiful and just perfect for this particular character's debut. What I did today earlier was wrote an actual press release. Ted was decent enough to send me a photograph of himself. And so I got this out over on Facebook and other sites on the internet. Ted has agreed to do the cover for our new Domino Lady anthology.
Cool. Yes.
So that's going to be a perfect fit, and I want to get that out. Okay, so
Domino Lady, she's supposed to be sexy. He can do sexy.
Hands down. Hands down,
man.
buddy.
That's going to be good.
Yep. All right. Hey, so Snake comes out next after, hopefully after this coming weekend. We'll be at the show, but hopefully next week when you get back home, we can put the final pieces together and get it up at Amazon like we always do. Okay, so
it might be early next week when it finally gets done, because I'm hoping to have it done before I go to Colorado. So I send it up to the author, but there's no telling. This week has been crazy one way or another. So and then the next week, of course, I've got Colorado that first weekend, and then just a few days later I have to go to Kansas City. So next week could be nuts too.
I feel for you, buddy. That's like on the go, Rolling Stone all the way.
But you know what? I love it. I love it. I really do.
Hey, look, I've attended enough shows with you. I know you live for these kind of things. And so do I. I mean, and I think most creators do, Rob, because what we do is mostly a lonely individual thing. You drawing in your office, me writing in front of this doggone computer. Okay, and for the most part, I think most of the creators we know are people, orientated. They're sociable. They like to get out, and the only chance we get to do that and be amongst not only our colleagues but the people who enjoy ourselves are at conventions. So that
People
there's
of
a
like
real
minds. Yeah, because I get out in the public because I have a part-time job driving a bus, so I get out and deal with people. But they're not the kind of people that are most of them that are interested in comic books and and that sort of thing. Some of them are. I mean, I can get those kind of conversations going, but it's nice to get out there and get amongst my fellow geeks and have some real geeky fun.
Okay, so we get Nest of Vipers out next. Hopefully, sometimes within the next couple of weeks, depending on what your schedule is like. And what's next in the queue for Airship 27? And
well, I just started. It's assembled. This is the way I do these things. We get the text pieces, and then we get we start working on artists for the cover sometimes. But then this next one is one that I'm doing the interiors for. So how I usually do that is I'll assemble the book. I'll put it in InDesign, which is the program I use to assemble all our books. And then I will sit down and read through every story. This one's an anthology, and it's Secret Agent X, Volume 5. It's got stories by Fred Adams Jr., Frank Schildiner, Andy and J. Walt. What is that? Lane? L-A-Y?
No, that's a typo on my part, amigo. That's Andy Fix and J. Walt Lane.
Okay. Yeah, because I've just started reading the stories. Then I'm just starting on the first one. I don't remember who is the first. I think the first one is Fred's.
Yeah.
I've got started about halfway through that story, and then I got caught up in the stuff for Planet Comic-Con. But so far, this first story is a real rollicking. It starts out fists flying and just keeps going. So,
well, like Secret Agent X, is a personal favorite of both of us.
Absolutely.
Right, and this is the 5th volume we do of his adventures, and we've always really gotten great response to the Secret Agent X books. And it's one of those series, like I said, Volume 5, it's one of those series where every time we put out a new issue, it does well for us. And then we get, the fans who like this character, and he's really a great classic pulp character. Always asking us at conventions, when are you doing another one?
When's the next one? When's the next one?
Right. Yeah. So hang in there, all you loyal airmen, because Secret Agent X Volume 5 is on its way, I'm very happy to say. And once Rob has finished the interior illustrations, we're going to look to our very, very good friend and one of our most talented artist in the Airship 27 staple, and that's Canadian artist Ingrid Hardy, who's agreed to do the cover for this. And how we're going to work this particular issue is I'm going to wait till Rob has done all the 12 black and white interior illustrations for the individual stories. Once I have seen those illustrations, hopefully one of them is going to jump out at me as that really dramatic piece of art that can inspire a cover. And then Rob and I will talk about that some more. We'll look at the possibilities, how the composition works, and then we hand that off to Ingrid. And if you're not familiar at all with Ingrid Hardy's work, please go to Facebook, look at my album there, our album at the Airship 27 Facebook page, where we have all our covers. She's done. She did a cover for one of Van Plexico's science fiction books for us, Lucian. She did the second Sherlock Holmes cover for us, the one of him in the lab, the close-up of his face.
With the skull and the little beaker. Yeah, that was pretty. That was cool too.
And then the most recent cover she did for us, she also did. What am I talking about? Quartermain, the New Adventures, right? And then the last cover she did for us, and again, this is one of my favorites, is the Black Bat cover with the small scenario of Ty Cobb sliding into home.
Yeah, she knocked that one out of the park, because that was very painterly looking. Her style was kind of her earlier ones were kind of watercolor wash type of stuff, but this looked more like an oil painting. It was
very much so.
Yeah, and so it was a little bit of a departure for her, because it kind of surprised me a little bit, but she really knocked it out of the park. Pun intended, because it is
of the ballpark.
The baseball park.
Pun intended. Hey, hey, Ingrid, like I said, Ingrid is a doll. She's really a wonderful lady and a gifted artist. And it's one of the things that, if you don't get this, there aren't all that many female creators in the new pulp movement as yet. But it's something that all of us, Rob, myself, and our colleagues, and at the other publishing houses, are all trying to correct and get many more women involved with both writing and drawing, in the community. Because as it turns out, they're some of the best talents we have. So, okay. Hey, all right.
Women storytellers, just like men and women both are storytellers. Yep.
Yep, exactly. Totally, and creative to boot, believe me. They bring a different sensibility, and that's always good. Okay, hey, so much, that's our segment on what's coming. And right now, and again, I want to thank people. We're going to mention their names as we go through this section. But this is going to be the block of this week's, or this month's episode, I should say, of answering the questions that we got via the internet. And Rob, I'm going to let you start off reading this one from Richard Gordon.
Okay.
Why don't you read it up to his first question and go ahead and dig into that.
There's more than one here.
Right.
Okay.
Read up to the first question and then go into it, all right? And then I'll eventually jump into the conversation.
Okay. He says, gentlemen, he doesn't know us very well, does he?
Anyway. I'm looking over my shoulder going, who?
Gentlemen, because a couple of my favorite writers have done work for your company, I was curious enough to listen to and did enjoy your first podcast. Since you're taking questions, I have a couple. While I understand if you don't wish to single out specific titles, characters during your answers. 1. Do you foresee a day when new pulp material will go mainstream? Movies, TV, etc.
So what do you think, Rob? You think that, someday we're going to see something like a Jim Anthony movie or a Brother Bones animated series or something?
I don't know. Pulp is already in the movies because James Bond is Pulp and that sort of thing. I can see, especially with today's CGI technology, I think Secret Agent X could be a really interesting one if somebody would glom onto that. It's quite possible. Right now, New Pulp is pretty much a niche publication type of thing. We're not, even though we're actually some of the most action-oriented stuff, which is what the superhero movies and James Bond and some of the other stuff like that. It is action-oriented, just like the New Pulp is. But it's kind of hard to say. It just depends. It's going to take a character to really grab some producer or director's interest, I think, and then he would sell that to a studio, and that you can never predict whether that's going to happen or when it might happen. So I really don't know that there is a perfect answer to that. But
okay.
It's just going to take somebody glomming onto it. I think it's quite possible.
I think the more New Pulp is around, all right, I think the more we're going to see a lot of these classic pulp characters, again, continue to get exposure, all right? I mean, we were just talking about Domino Lady, and, the public domain characters especially, Rob, all right? Yeah. Moonstone's doing things with Domino Lady. Rich Harvey and his Bold Venture Press is doing things with Domino Lady. We're going to have a Domino Lady anthology out there. So it's not that the characters aren't getting more and more exposure as New Pulp takes a hold in the genre community, all right? I think it's going to continue, and I think that's all it's going to take, buddy. I think it's going to take, somebody, some producer, associate TV producer or whatever, to come to a pulp show like Windy City or Pulp Fest, right? Specifically looking for material. And basically see something that intrigues them. And man, I mean, the Domino Lady series. I mean, my
Yeah.
thinking with something like this, buddy, would be that it would fit perfectly for the cable channels. Who had
Netflix,
right. Netflix, even Amazon, all right, or Stars, Cinemax, HBO, all right, who would have the resources to do a period piece and make it look authentic and would be willing to push the envelope a bit for an adult pulp type series. I remember a while back, a couple of years ago, and I don't know if you remember this conversation. We were talking about this on one of the internet sites, the Pulp Factory, and a few of our members were talking about, well, how would you bring a classic pulp character to television in that kind of a series? And that immediately piqued my interest because, again, this conversation is going to do a circle and go back on what we just talked about, buddy. But Secret Agent X, okay? I mean, such a great character. Well, obviously the gimmick with Secret Agent X, as you and I are well aware of, is nobody knew what he looked like, right? So every issue, the whole point was his multiple disguises. He had a few that he would reuse that got to be, familiar to readers of his adventures that he would fall back on every now and then. But for the most part, his adventures were always about he was the man of 1,000 faces. So I can remember thinking about if I were Ray, you know where I'm coming with this. If I were a producer, right? If I were a producer of say Cinemax, okay, and somebody said, give us a unique action adventure spy melodrama like nothing that's ever been done on the air, then my answer would be do Secret Agent X. Put him smack dab in the pre-World War II era, all right? But and here we go. And basically hire one actor that you never see his face. You would always see him from behind at the beginning of every show, much like, remember the little prologues to Mission Impossible, where they'd light the match and, boom, 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 you're on your way. Well, in this case, you would see, like, the back of Secret Agent X. He'd walk down this cellar into his hidden office, and he had several of them all over New York City. And he'd sit there at this transmitter, this two-way radio, and his boss would call him and say, we need you on this case. This is what, the show would be about for that week's episode. And he would turn around, and he'd look over, and on his desk would be the makeup kits and that little plastic head. And the plastic head would have the image of a face. And what I would do as a director would be the face that we'd see on the plastic dummy, the molding, would be of the actor who would be playing Secret Agent X that particular week. And so you'd never have a regular actor playing him. Every single week it would be a brand new actor in the course of the hour or however long you did the episode. You know what I'm saying? And you could have a killer show. It would so be true to the property itself.
It's definitely outside the box.
Right.
I see some problems with that, especially when you're talking about Hollywood, with the star mentality of, you got to have a star for a show. Well, the star would not be an actor; it would be the character.
Exactly.
So, and you'd have a different actor every week playing it. Now, if it's done right, then you would have all sorts of actors clamoring to play that character.
Of course.
It could work. It could work either way. But I think it would be initially it'd be a hard sell. But if it was a popular show, you would suddenly have all these actors wanting to play a character on Secret Agent X for a week.
Well,
or maybe two.
You did something which I absolutely loved when we started publishing the new Secret Agent X adventures at Airship 27, and that was in every one of your sketches of the character, as you drew him different, right, as a different personality, as a different figure for his disguises. But you always put a little X someplace on his character, whether it was his tie pin in the sketch or a ring or whatever. And, we're talking about this and having fun with this conversation, and I'm thinking that's what you would do, all right? You would get a ring and have an X on the ring. And then as after we'd finished with the little prelude prologue I just mentioned, as the series got underway, you'd be seeing it unfold, and you'd have this, again, new actor playing him. And somewhere in the first 10, 15 minutes, the camera would pan over to his hand, and you'd see the ring.
Yep.
So already the audience would know, oh, that's X this week.
Right.
And see, and the smart thing about this, Rob, okay, and that's why I think the show would be such a revolutionary hit. It's something new. It's not the same old we've seen on television time and time again over the years. That breath of fresh air of having new characters playing every single week. It's like you said, I think would get a lot of publicity. It would shake Hollywood up a lot. And my thing, Rob, would be as a savvy producer, I wouldn't be going out looking for big name actors. If nothing else, I'd be going out looking for those middle tier, right, who are looking for their big break. You know, and giving, you know, because say you do a 13-week episode on Cinemax. That's 13 different young, struggling actors you give an opportunity, a shot in the limelight to on top of everything else, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept because you also have to stop and think his supporting cast would be the regulars on the show. There you go.
Right.
The star of the show, the star is the character, and he'd be a different actor every week.
Exactly.
So,
What's a Commissioner Burke, who's chasing him down. Betty Dale, his beautiful blonde reporter friend, right? He has a private eye, a redheaded private eye he uses on different occasions.
Yeah, I can't think of his name, but yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. You would create a supporting cast, which would be the regulars of the actual show. But every week it would be a different actor playing Secret Agent X. Hey, you know, to all our loyal airmen listeners out there, if you like this idea, please, you know, share this podcast with all your friends and people.
If you know a producer.
Yes. Yeah. Rob and I are willing to pitch in, okay? Okay, hey, let me answer the second half of Richard's question to what, you know, we just got off on this tangent with. And he says...
Richard Gordon, yep.
Considering it seems like even the big publishing houses are striving to survive and maintain their audiences, just what do you think lies in the future for the new pulp genre? Okay. You know, I'm an optimist at heart, and I always have been. And it doesn't take a lot for me to fall back on that, especially when I look back on the fact that 10 years ago, there was no new pulp movement. All right? I mean, you know, Rob, I just finished writing an article for the Burroughs Bulletin for our friend Henry Franke, who attends Pulp Fest every year.
It's Edgar Rice Burroughs, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And I mean, that's one of the that's one of the oldest.
It's been around for a long time.
Journals for a long time. And Henry'd been asking me, because he's one of the editors of it now, to write a little brief history of the new pulp movement, and that's what I've been doing the last couple of days. Based on basically my personal experiences and involvement, and you know, I apologize at the beginning of the article if I got anything wrong or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, Richard, new pulp since, you know, again, maybe 10 years ago, when it started to gel. There had been people who were working in it. There were people like Black Coat Press, Joe Gentile at Moonstone. It tried his hand at publishing anthologies like Kojak, The Night Stalker, and The Phantom. And then, you know, Rob and I come along with Airship 27, and soon after, Tommy and Prose Productions, Van Plexico had always been writing on the internet, but then he had the impetus to start White Rocket Books, and Wayne Reingold started his own outfit. And suddenly,
it's funny how it all gelled all at once, too. It's just kind of... we all kind of had the same idea, so it's very interesting that that all these eggs started to hatch all at once.
Oh yeah, well it was like dominoes falling on top of each other, because within a couple of years, you know, there were like no new pulp publishers out there, and suddenly we had like 6 or 7 regular publishing houses. So as you and I have seen firsthand from attending Windy City, which now even has a 5-hour block called New Pulp Sunday, and then Pulp Fest, again, growing bigger and bigger, and I you know, am very happy and delighted to moderate the new Pulp panel, which is now a staple of Pulp Fest. Pulp Fest has grown. Now, one of the things I want to, you know, make extremely clear, and this goes back to your own thoughts, Rob, it's never going to be huge. It's never going to be a gigantic thing. It is very much a niche market. But try to understand. And Richard, you were really, really smart in opening up that question with the fact, the very simple statement that publishing in America today is hurting. Okay, I mean, across the board. The big houses, I mean, we've had several mergers over the last couple of years of some of the giant publishing houses in New York because they can't survive anymore. And the reasoning for that, I think a major part, Rob, I think goes back to the digital revolution.
Right.
I think we're seeing so much happen, with Nooks and Kindles that the need for published books is dwindling rapidly. Real hard copies. It's a losing proposition for these, old publishing houses that have been around for hundreds of years. And the internet now, thanks to print on demand, is opened up the field to even more competition. Whether it's, the new pulp movement or people doing westerns or romances or whatever.
Self-publishing. Yeah,
right.
Self-publishing stuff.
Anybody and his uncle can be a publisher. So that becomes a real chaotic environment. But again, if you have talented creators and people, regardless of the genre or the niche or whatever, then ultimately, as the old saw goes, buddy, cream rises to the top.
Yeah.
And new pulp was, and try to understand, because this is something I mentioned in my article for the Burroughs Bulletin, the real concept behind new pulp was never to be a huge, the reinvent the wheel, if you will, okay, or to be a huge new publishing venture that would make people millionaires overnight and be on the bestseller list and blah, 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 blah. No.
If that's true, we've certainly failed.
Yeah, we're on the wrong track, buddy, No. It's a lot more, and again, please, if I'm patting myself on the back, feel free to write me letters and say I have an ego the size of the moon. But the truth is, the real impetus behind creating new pulp, behind recruiting writers and artists in new pulp, was to give a shot in the arm to the pulp fandom community, which 10 years ago was really, really on its last gasp. And I mean, if anybody had ever attended the last actual presentations of the old PulpCon, you'll know what I'm talking about. All right, it was becoming inbred. They weren't letting in comic book people. They weren't letting in video people. They weren't, right? So that the fandom...
snake eating its own tail.
Oh, Rob, I mean, when I attended PulpCon, I was like 56, 57, and I was the youngest guy there. Mm-hmm. I mean, so when you're looking at a fan base that's dwindling from attrition, these guys are in their 70s and 80s and passing away, who's going to pass on the torch? And not only who's going to pass it on, buddy, but who's there to pick it up?
Yeah.
So you and I recognized that, with our first couple of trips to Windy City, that the realization was the only way you get new pulp fans is to create a kind of pulp fiction that will appeal to them. And that, I think, was always the heart and soul of what new pulp's all about. And that's where I'm encouraged. That's where I'm still optimistic. I think new pulp is very much vibrant. It still attracts new readers and writers because we see them all the time, and we have the joy of publishing them. We meet them at conventions. The conventions have become very healthy, very energized, and acceptance of new pulp. So if nothing
especially
else,
Windy City, but Pulp Fest to a certain degree too.
right?
Yeah.
So again, it's not a case of we're trying to change anything as much as we're just trying to be the next evolution of the pulp community. And through new pulp, hopefully keep pulp fandom alive. Because I would hate to think of a time in a future where people just totally forgot about this great escapist literature of the 30s and 40s, Rob. I think it deserves, and I think you and I are seeing this more and more. I think we're seeing scholarly research being done now on the pulps, which it deserves. Okay, I mean the artwork.
Right.
That influenced, future painters of our generations, the writers who influenced the slick writers who came along in the 60s, after World War II, whatever. But all these people learned their craft in the pulps. And especially during the Great Depression, the pulps were a real saving, island, if you will, in that world of sadness and depression, no jobs, people out of work, where was the future coming, all this good stuff. And there, for 10 cents a week, you could pick up a pirate magazine or a Western or a Shadow or an Avenger. So I will always argue that pulps had a real part in American history, cultural history, that is, and we should revere that history and we should keep it alive. And the way we do that, in small part, is new pulp. So there you go.
Yep,
and
I think it's somewhat like if you think that people revere Dickens and Shakespeare, but when you go back and find out what they were really doing when they were doing it, they were doing pretty much what pulps were doing, and that's just entertaining people, trying to make a little bit of money, entertaining people. It wasn't thought of as high literature or any of that. But boy, later on, everyone's studying Dickens and Shakespeare and all that now. And now Pulp Fiction is kind of in that same position, because when it was being done originally back in the 20s and 30s, it was thought of as trash literature.
Exactly.
But now, and some of it was pretty bad. But
yeah.
But there were some very talented people working in it who were creating some really interesting stuff. And it would be really a shame for that to just kind of slowly ebb away. With all we would have left is just the Shadow and Dr. Savage, and just barely even having them. There's a wealth of different characters out there, like Domino Lady and Secret Agent X, and just Jim Anthony, just a whole bunch of characters like that. It'd be horrible to just see those just wither away.
Yep.
And so that's kind of you're absolutely right. That was our aim with this. My idea of what the future of new pulps, I think this because we write checks to our writers and artists, and you see where the money's coming from, mostly from our books right now, and that's from the electronic stuff. Kindle books are the majority of sales and profits that we make. We're not making money hand over fist, but the majority of what we do make is made with the Kindle books. And again, see, those are less expensive,
right,
than the printed books. So you're getting a lot of people experimenting, trying it out, seeing what. But we're still selling books.
Don't you just love that, though, Rob? That the new technology that made it possible in the first place, i.e., self-publishing, for us to create Airship 27, Pro Safe Productions, White Rockets, is now come along.
I would not be able to do this without my Mac computer.
There you go.
InDesign.
And now Kindle is making it at least financially feasible for us to reward these creators.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Hey, look, I want to get to this next section, because I'm keeping my eye on the clock, as I always do.
Yep.
And as ever. Okay, these hours go by way too fast. So I'm going to read off the next question, and I'm going to let you take care of answering this. Okay? Now, because this comes from Jeff Fortier, and Jeff wants us to discuss what pulp comics are coming from Redbud Studios in the future. Now, great question, Jeff. Thanks for sending it along. But I think before we get into answering that specific question, I think, Rob, you need to, because you're the head honcho of Redbud Studios, is explain what Redbud Studio is. And again, it ties in with everything we're talking about here, and how Redbud came into existence, and then we'll get into the pulp titles we've done through it.
Now, Redbud was kind of it was a response to the fact we were having trouble selling Daughter of Dracula, the graphic novel you wrote and I drew. We were having trouble finding anybody that could figure out how to promote or even do anything with the book. So we thought, well, heck, we'll just print it ourselves and we'll sell it at conventions and that. So I'd always had this idea in the back of my head of doing some self-publishing stuff, and I'd come up with this name for the studio, and that was Redbud Studios, because where I live, I have a 5-acre plot in the middle of mid-Missouri. And there's a bunch of redbud trees growing on the property. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I'll just call it Redbud Studios. So anyway, that's how it started. It was a way for us to get Daughter of Dracula out there. Well, then that kind of started the snowball down the hill, and it was never my intention to do much more than just a book here and there. But we've had a lot of people express a lot of interest in doing different stories. I've got a couple people that have asked me to publish their books. The problem is that you don't make a lot of money. It's kind of like printing in books. You don't make a lot of money printing comic books any more than you do the prose books. But if you want something that you can take to a convention and show and sell to folks that are interested in that sort of thing, and you want to tell stories in the comic book medium, this is a way for you to do it. And unfortunately, I don't have as much time to devote to Redbud Studio as I would like. Maybe as the years go by and I fall more into my retirement, quote unquote, and do a little less real work to keep the home fires burning. I can do a little more of that. But you want me to tell?
Well, I mean, number one, thanks, because I appreciate you're giving us the history of Redbud Studios, and what I want to do now is we got Daughter Dracula out, and we keep it in print, and I'm forever grateful for you, for doing that. Never mind being the illustrator on the book itself, and it continues to sell for us at conventions, as you said. That's the joy of being. Copies, it's the joy of being able to do that. So, as I recall, we had that out, and feel free to correct me. We had that out, and I then talked you into maybe reprinting a lot of my old Mr. Jigsaw comics.
Yeah. That was the next step. Yeah. I'm sorry. And then, what's his name? Gary
Cato and I started doing new issues, so that's an ongoing series from Redbud now. But the next thing, and this addresses Jeff's question, was the next thing that we talked about and eventually got done was a 5-issue miniseries I had done originally for Caliber books years ago in my comic career, which was the Boston Bombers.
Which is a gorgeous book. That's a great book.
Thank you. I went to you. You said sure. We managed to get copies, decent halfway reproductions, and you put it all together as a one-shot graphic novel.
Yeah.
We released it, and because it was totally a pulp-orientated book. That's what it is. Much to our delight and surprise, it took Pulp Arc's first award for best pulp comic book. So that was that first joining of Redbud with what we do at Airship 27. Now, after that,
the snowball started.
Exactly. There you go. After that, it was a case of you and I talking about, well, if we're doing anthologies, prose anthologies of these classic pulp characters, why don't we do that as a comic book? And from that came All-Star Pulp Comics.
Right.
We put out one issue one year, and the following year, when we had the time, and you succinctly told the fact, you and I are always busy. We've always got 200 things on the plate, and so it's always a case of as time allows. But we managed to get the second one done again with a nice eclectic mix of short stories, of pulp short stories. So one of the things Jeff is concerned with now is when is All-Star #3 coming out? And that's what I wanted to lead up to.
That's where I was going to go next.
Yeah, and we will. Before I forget, we did last year actually release another Redbud Studio pulp comic, and in fact, it was the first, right, Rob? Full color.
It was our first all-color book, which it surprised me because I thought it was going to be very expensive to do. But it surprised me that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, as far as basic costs go. But I don't want to price them too high that people got to go, oh no, I don't want to buy that because it's too expensive. When you're doing self-published stuff and print on demand, the printing costs are higher than they would be if you were printing like regular comic books are done on an offset press, where you print thousands of copies and they're pennies a piece. they're a lot more expensive to do that with print on demand.
So
But
that-
it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So
No, we had that at Pulp Fest last year. We debuted it
Yeah.
at Pulp Fest, and that was Ivy Frost, scientific
Mm-hmm.
investigator. And for those of you out there, Frost is, again, what Rob and I have fun doing, which is a very little-known pulp hero from the magazine called Clue Magazine that was published in the late 30s and 40s. He was created by a writer named Donald Wandre. And I wrote 2 stories, and Gary did the illustrations. We had a talented colorist named Casey Bemis, who
Mm-hmm.
did the coloring for the book. And what was his name? Oh, Miner. Joe Miner did the cover.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And that book is still available. Go check out Redbud's, website page. All right. It's available from Indie Planet.
Right.
So you can find copies there as well, as you can the first couple issues of All-Star Pulp Comics 1 and 2. So Rob, you got a list in front of you.
Yeah.
What do we have planned for All-Star Pulp Comics number 3 when we eventually put it together?
Okay. Well, we've got. First, I'll list who's going to be in it, and then no, I won't even do that. I'll just go right straight across. First character is Purple Scar. I guess these are in order: the writer and then the artist, because I haven't looked at these lately.
Right. Well, yeah.
Hunter Lambright and Carl Yoder.
Okay. Yonder.
Yonder. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. It's writer artist. It's
one's
yonder,
finished.
Carl. It's yonder. Okay.
Yonder. Yeah, over yonder.
There. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, that one's finished. These are all in my files somewhere for when the whole thing's finished. Then it'll get put together.
Yep.
Then there's Mars McCoy by Mike Barron, and that's the Mike Barron who wrote Nexus and The Badger and other great crazy books out there.
Oh yeah, multiple Eisner Award winner. Mike
Yes,
Barron.
sir. Yeah, and just a great writer. And I am I going to get to meet him this weekend?
Yes, you are.
All right, yeah, I get to meet Mike Barron for the first time this coming weekend, and then Eric Hurley, I guess he's the artist.
That's right.
Again, I haven't looked at this. A lot of times this stuff will come over the transom. Ron will send it to me. I'll save it back. I don't even look at it because it's not time to look at it yet. And then that one's
Eric did a great job with it. It's really awesome.
okay. I'll have to get a chance to take a look at these because we're getting close to having the full complement here.
Yep.
And then Kygor, the Jungle Lord by Sam Salas. I guess he's the writer and the artist.
Yep.
The Salas or Salas.
I'm trying to remember.
There's only one name.
Yeah,
here.
no, yeah, right. Sam did both, but you missed the Black Bat.
Oh, I did jump over it. There's that
Yeah,
Ron
thanks a lot.
Fortier guy.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, what can I say? Yeah, The Black Bat by Ron Fortier and Eric Johns. That's finished.
Yep.
That should be killer. And then again, like I said, Kygor the Jungle Lord by Sam. This could be Salas or Salas.
It's Salas. You will probably meet him this weekend as well.
Okay, cool. And then the next one here. Boy, my eyes almost skipped over the next one here too. Lance Starr, Sky Ranger, by Bobby Nash and Rock Baker. And I've seen Rock stuff before on other stuff, so this should rock and roll.
Yep.
You know, Rock rocks it. I'll tell you.
Ooh, rough.
Puns are my okay. Anyway, and then the next one is Sinbad. That's finished, by the way. The Lance Starr one is Sinbad the Sailor. That's by Scott Doc Vaughn, and that one's finished as well.
Right, and that's the same thing.
I don't think I've got that one in my file yet, Ron. So, but I might. That one's not familiar.
Okay, I have copies. Never to worry.
Yeah, I figured you did.
Scott both wrote and illustrated that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the next one here is by Aaron Smith, and he's a hell of a writer. We've seen a lot of his stuff in the Airship 27 books.
Yep. Yeah, he's one of our regulars.
And David Niehaus,
the artist.
Yeah, he's the artist. That one's finished.
That's the Crimson Mask.
Oh, did I not say what it was? It's the Crimson Mask. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Yep.
And then the Moon Man, another crazy character from the Pulp era. It's a guy. This is the guy who wears a glass globe on his head.
The fishbowl.
Yeah, essentially a big fishbowl on his head. And this one's being written by Michael Leonard and illustrated by James Lyle. James he's done some interior work for us on Airship 27 books, hasn't he?
Yeah, he did the interior work for the Queen of Escape.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And now he's doing the interior work on the Domino Lady anthology.
Oh yes, yeah, beautiful stuff.
Yep.
And that one is not quite finished yet. It looks like. So we're waiting on that one to come in. And then the last one here is The Green Ghost by our old pal Kevin Noel Olson.
Yep.
And I'm probably going to mispronounce this. I guess it's Derka Mah, M-A-H.
Right.
Derkemah. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I'm from Southwest Missouri. We call everything grits. What can I tell you? Yeah, we mispronounce our own names, let alone
totally.
So yeah, but that's the Green Ghost by Kevin Olson and Dirk Ma.
Yeah. So those two are the last two strips. The Moon Man strip, as I recall, okay, Rob, is penciled. It's all pencil. So what we're waiting on now is James Lyle has an inker to finish, the strip, and he's now working on the ink. So that's where that's at. As far as the Green Ghost is concerned, I'm like yourself, totally unfamiliar with Dirk Ma's style or artwork, but Kevin Olson tells me that it is in progress. He is doing it. So those are the last two. Once we get those two in-house, the book will be finished, and then
it'll be a matter of me finding time to put it together.
And me recruiting a cover artist, because one of the things that we've had fun with the first two issues is, we put two Pulp characters back to back on the cover, all right, who naturally or normally you wouldn't see together, and one of them's male and one of them's female. All-Star Pulp Comics #1 had the Green Llama fighting alongside Domino Lady. Jeff Butler did that cover for us.
Killer cover.
Oh, and then the second one, and again, this is one of my favorites, we had Dylan, Derek Ferguson's African-American hero, fighting alongside the beautiful Helene, Kygor's mate, in a jungle setting. And Will Migno did that cover for us.
Yeah, another killer cover.
Right. So
I've been very lucky with covers on that book.
Amen. So between now and getting All-Star Pulp #3 finished, I got to put my thinking cap on and decide which of the characters in the book we're going to put together for a cover, and then, like I said, go out on the net, go hunting, and find just the right cover artist to do the book. And there you go. And we'll keep all you posted, loyal Airship fans. Believe me, whether on my Friday Flight Log blog or on our Airship 27 Facebook page or Rob's page or my own. But that's where we stand on All-Star Pulp #3 right now. Yep.
Yeah, Redbud sometimes takes a back seat because of other stuff going on, but there's always something on the back burner somewhere. So,
well, let me throw this in, and then we're going to get the Nick Sowers question, which will be our wrap up for this episode. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't want to forget mentioning it. Rob actually is almost halfway done penciling, inking, and lettering Secret Agent X one-shot comic book. Which what did I title that thing? Race with the Devil?
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm looking across the studio here at the page now, but it's far enough away that these old eyes can't see what the title is. But that sounds right. I
had written it a couple years ago. I believe it's only 30 some odd pages long. And we had another artist who was working on it, but after a year or so, I think he only did like 1 or 2 pages, and just couldn't get it done. So you, in your magnanimousness,
I think.
well, it was after you'd retired. And all of a sudden
Yeah.
you was like, okay, well, I'll take on the Secret Agent X comic. And you started to turn in pages in early fall, just prior to the Christmas holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And before the floodgates let loose on everything else you're doing and I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what page we're on with that right now, but I'm really hoping that after summer, after we get through our vacation, our con circuit, that your
there's
time
some other. Yeah, there's some other work that we're looking to try and get me into that may slow that down a little bit too. But some other stuff that we will talk about hopefully in the future.
Right.
About now.
Right.
But
it's a little premature.
There's always seems like something comes up.
Right. We don't want to talk about that other project just yet.
No, not yet. But
No.
I'm going to tease it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it could be.
But that's all I'm going to say. It's out there, but we can't say anything more else about it. But I really think the story is great. I'm really starting to get there's action throughout the book, but now we're really getting where I've gotten to is right in the middle of the action, and then all this other stuff kind of got in the way. So, but there's some exciting action coming up for me to draw here pretty quick. So
I love how it's coming up.
Yeah,
absolutely do.
Looks fun.
Okay, hey, last question for this week. Okay, and I'm gonna race through it because it's for me on the hot seat.
Yeah, you're on the hot seat.
I promised Nick Sauer that I would answer him. Nick wants to know when will the next Captain Hazard be coming out. As I've said on several other podcasts in the last year or so, including Art Sippel's interview show a few months back.
Right.
I'm about halfway done that book, the 5th Captain Hazard action-adventure novel. And, again, I am swamped right now. I have got tons of work. I've got a commitment to the Captain Action people that I've got to sit down and tackle. And I'm doing tons of work for Moonstone, plus all my regular editing chores here at Airship 27. So, again, Captain Hazard number 5, like everything, like the other things we talked about here, buddy, is on the back burner for now. But I'm not discounting the fact that, again, come this fall, if I can clean up those other commitments, I've got to make a vow not to take on any other commitments, and just devote myself to this, because people like Nick and all the other gracious loyal airmen who've read the first 4 Captain Hazard books and been kind enough to support me in recreating that great Pulp character. I owe it to you guys. I will finish this book hopefully by the end of this year, and that's the best I can offer right now.
And believe me, folks, for all of you out there, I have been hounding him about every 2 or 3 months. I'll go, hey Ron, how's that Captain Hazard novel coming? And there for a while, I was getting regular reports, and then just like me, so I can't say a thing because he can razz me about Secret Agent X comic book, and I'm going to razz him about the Captain Hazard book. There's so much we want to do, and it gets thrown at us, and we go, oh man, I got to do this, but I really want to do this, and it just keeps coming.
Well, Rob, every one of our writing buddies and artist buddies are out there right now sitting there shaking their heads up and down going, yep, been there, done that. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I see the hour's up. Once again, buddy, this is how fast this goes.
Oh, man. I still had another 10 minutes.
Hey, look, thank you to Comic Related. Thank you to Zone 4 who sponsor our hour of Pulp fun and goodies here, to Brant Sparky Fowler, who puts it all together for us. Rob, go ahead and say goodnight, and then I'll give the order.
Well, this is from your chief engineer of Airship 27, Rob Davis, signing off.
And Captain Ron has but one thing to say: down ship.
This has been a Gonzo Goose production.